recording. Then darkness took me, and I strayed out of thought and time, and I wandered far on roads that I will not tell.
Secrets.
Secrets.
Well, greetings, listeners, and Happy New Year, and welcome to the We Read Books podcast. This is where we read books and we talk about them for mostly our own enjoyment, but hopefully for yours as well. Our quote reader over there, that is Mad.
And that is Whit.
Hello.
And it's 2024.
Can you believe it?
No. Actually.
I am also out of space and time, and I feel like mentally I'm like, no, it's 2024. I'm not doing this 2023 thing anymore.
Yeah, well, yeah.
For a while, or just, I don't know, December just felt like it was in its own pocket of time because it was so busy.
It was so busy. I always feel like January is like its own pocket of time. It feels very long.
It does.
Usually.
It does.
Even though like everyone in my family has a birthday in January, it just still feels like it's unending.
Right. It's probably all the social engagements.
Yeah, probably.
But I was going to jokingly say, New Year, same us. Because I don't know about you, but I don't need to make my self-improvements at the beginning of the year. I just try and do it all throughout.
Yeah. It's funny. I think I usually do have like goals that I set, but it's never because it's the beginning of the year.
Right.
The reason usually is because I generally take off the week between Christmas and New Year. Mm-hmm. So I have time to sit and think about like usually it's book lists. These are the books I want to read in the coming year.
Absolutely. That's just a plan for the new year, not time crunch. I gotta be a new me.
Time to change.
There is nothing wrong with making resolutions. That's not what I'm saying. I just personally don't. One, because if I label it as a resolution, that's too much pressure, and it's not gonna happen.
Right. I agree. I think a lot of people like are looking at the new year like, okay, this is when I'm going to make these changes that I've been wanting to make.
Yeah.
This is the clean slate. Yeah. And then whenever they like kind of fall off the wagon.
As I say, stumble a little, then they feel like a failure already.
Feel like a failure. And then it just ruins everything instead of like, I feel like if you maybe set like milestones instead, then you don't feel like you're like one day where you aren't drinking 40 gallons of water and working out isn't going to crumble you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
just be nice to yourself. It's a new year.
Yeah, I know. I struggle as much as the next person being nice to myself, but usually not in the normal ways. I'm not like, oh, you're so fat. Look at you. I don't ever like think that to myself, but
I might look at myself in the mirror occasionally and be like, you're a little gummy bear, a little chubby bunny, but then I get over it.
Yeah.
I've been very good about my self-talk this last year because I have been working out, and not that my body has necessarily physically changed look-wise, like drastically. It hasn't, but I feel better because I'm stronger.
Yeah.
And that's really all I needed. I just needed to not feel like a lazy couch potato. Mm-hmm. That was really the problem.
Yeah. I think how you feel is the most important aspect of any sort of like lifestyle change, for sure.
Yeah. And also I just try and look at my body and be like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to be nice to you. I live in you.
Yeah. What's really funny is we were watching Schitt's Creek last night, I think. And there's an episode. Now, listen, I know Schitt's Creek has been out for a really long time, and I refused to watch it for the longest time. Dear listeners. Number one, because I felt like the name was so on the nose, and I don't generally gravitate towards a pun. So I was like, first of all, no.
The title implies that it's gonna be
stupid.
Yeah, like I don't know what kind of humor, just not the kind that you or I are normally drawn to. So I get it.
And so I initially wrote it off without ever hearing anyone talk about it, even though I do really like Eugene and Dan Levy. I think they're both hilarious. So I was just like, whatever, that name, I can't. Well, somehow, like, soon after that, I went to work, and I had at least 3 people tell me specifically, you would love the show. Oh my God, you have to watch the show. And I'm like, first of all, no.
Is this a sign? I feel like I'm being attacked.
I was feeling very, like, arm twisted.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? No. I refuse. I'm never watching it now.
Right. This bandwagon that you have tried to force me onto, I shall not.
How do you know what I would like?
Right. You don't know me.
You don't know me.
Don't pretend like you know me.
Yeah. So I refused. And then it must have been while Dakota was traveling a lot, he watched it. And he was like, I think you'd like it. It's really funny. And I'm like, nope. This is the hill I'm choosing to die on, and I'm not going to watch it. But, like, while we were off for Christmas, he was like, it's on Prime now. You can watch it for free. Just
for free. Okay.
And I was like, fine, I will, now that the hubbub has died.
Right.
And it is funny. All of that to say that a recent episode, Moira is trying to find these old nude photos of her from like the 70s. And she's at first very distressed. Like, we have to find these. They've uncovered them, whatever. And then they can't find them. And she's super disappointed.
Yeah, because she wanted to see them.
Yeah. And she, like, she tells Stevie, she's like, hey, take as many pictures of yourself naked right now as you can, because when you're my age, you're going to be glad that you have them, and you're going to look at them and be like, damn, I used to look like that.
Yeah. I had that realization last year, honestly. Like, I looked at old pictures, because over the last couple of years, I had gained probably 20 pounds, but like in the last 10 years, I've gained like 40 or more. So, you know, last year, it kind of caught up in my brain. I was a little self-conscious about myself, but I would look at old pictures and I'm like, I used to think that I was unattractive then, and I looked like really good. So it's like 20 more pounds from now, I'm going to look back at the pictures of me now and go, wow, I still looked really good.
Yeah.
So I kind of had that realization. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna appreciate the looks that I have now and try and love myself. And yeah, it's like, if I am that unhappy, then I need to do something about it, or I need to stop complaining. So that's when Caleb and I decided to start working out.
Yeah.
He says he can see a lot of change in my body, which is great. You know, I still wear the same size clothes, but they fit me differently.
Yeah.
But like I said, I was doing it less to like look like I did 40 pounds ago, and more so just to feel better about myself and feel strong and healthy, and you know,
and it's good for your mental.
Yeah, and to counteract the, you know, I feel better about junk when I eat junk.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, but I work out, so I'm at least doing something.
Yeah, and Dakota's gotten into the routine. You know, like, he started training for the marathon he did in September, and from that whole period, he's always been a really active guy. He gets very antsy when it comes to like sitting around.
Yeah.
Like, he's just
not a sit still kind of person.
Never. So whenever he like has a bad day or a hard day at work or whatever it is, now his go-to is like, I'm going to go on a bike ride because it's going to like clear my mental. So that's like his go-to now, because he realized training so often that his mood was so much better.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what he does now for that.
And I will tell you, it was a struggle in the beginning. And I still have days where when I'm working out, I'm like, I don't want to be doing this. Yeah. I hate this. But when I'm done, I always feel better.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's tough.
It is tough.
And I also was like, I'm not going to pick something that's not sustainable. I'm not going to say like, I need to work out 7 days a week and I'm going to never eat sugar again. And I didn't make these like ridiculous, like I can't list. I was just like, I'm going to do this thing. And if that and then that generally inspires like other better habits. But yeah, I didn't try to start off when I made this change last year, like to be this big restrictive thing, because that also kind of keeps you from...
It does.
Those are the stumbling blocks you trip on and go, forget it.
Right, exactly. I follow a lot of nutritionists on YouTube, and the like common theme for all of them is when it comes to wanting to like eat more food that's like nourishing as opposed to like your heart food, right? They say that the best way to like start focusing on health food is to not think about what you have to eliminate from your diet. Think about what you can add to your diet.
Yes. I think you told me that, and that really stuck with me too. I was like, okay, what can I add rather than what I can't have?
Exactly.
What should I add?
Yeah, what's going to make me feel the best?
Right.
Which, like, last year or maybe the year before that, I started... The only thing I did was I'm going to try and eat 6 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. That was literally it.
Yeah.
And just doing that, I ate so much less snack food.
Right. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm trading this for this. You were just like, I'm going to add this in.
Yeah. If I like at lunch just was like, I want this bag of chips, so just eat it. Like,
right. But unacknowledged, I'm sure like you adding those things kind of satiated probably what would have been maybe a craving for something not so good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it definitely does work. And being restrictive or any time that I've ever tried eating, and it, like Dakota and I tried doing the keto thing for a while. Horrible.
And not every eating style works for everybody. That's true. Either. You know, not only mentally, but like physically. Like some people's bodies just... Yeah. You can't do that.
You just can't. Yeah, I absolutely could not. Especially because keto not only eliminates like processed sugar and carbs, you can't have starchy vegetables like asparagus or Brussels sprouts, which are my 2 favorite vegetables.
I was going to say, I'm already picky about vegetables. Like, so yeah, I would be in big trouble.
You can't... You have to eat very, very limited amounts of fruit. And the fruits you can have are usually just berries, which I eat a lot of blueberries anyway. But I eat an apple every single day of my life.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you telling me that this one apple is my entire day's worth of carbs? Get the fuck out of here.
Right. You're crazy. I do not accept that.
I reject this entirely.
Right. And I have a friend that's done keto, and like... that aligns with the types of food she likes, and that works super great for her. Yeah. And that's amazing.
That's great.
Would not work for me.
I immediately failed.
You just read it and you were like, no, I'm not doing that.
Essentially, that is exactly what happened. I'm sorry, bud, but if I can't eat apples and Brussels sprouts, I'm going to fail immediately.
Right.
So, sorry.
So sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
It seems so funny that a diet is going to limit your produce intake.
Yes.
It didn't compute in my brain, so.
I know it has to all do with the science of it or whatever, but yeah.
Get out of here, bud.
Well, if you would like to share your New Year's resolution / your thoughts on all those things, or just the books that you want to read this year, anything that you want to share with us, you can do so on our social channels.
You absolutely can.
Which are Instagram and TikTok are We Read Books Pod. And then our email is wereadbookspod23@gmail.com.
That's right. And my reading, I have 2 reading goals for the year. I picked a book list that I'm following.
Yeah, I want to fill it out just for fun. I know that I'm not going to be able to read 52 plus books this year, but I still want to fill it out.
Yeah, I'm trying there is one, it's 52 like prompts that you enter a book for each prompt. And 3 of the prompts are trilogy.
That's right. That's right.
So you add 12 extra onto that, but
I knew that it was an odd number. It wasn't just the even number of
Yeah.
books of weeks, but I couldn't remember how many.
But I'm trying to pick. So I also am trying to read the entire Brandon Sanderson catalog. Not necessarily just in this year, but I am starting it.
Right.
I've already read the first Mistborn cycle. I am restarting that, though, because it's been like 3 years. So I'm rereading Mistborn, and then I will get into the rest of the Cosmere and then his others. But
Nice. I definitely want to read some Brandon Sanderson.
I really loved the Mistborn trilogy. It's very good.
Awesome.
So
That's what I hear.
they are in my Audible. Might be difficult as a first listen, though.
Yeah, I think those I do want to read and like take my time.
Yeah.
Because I have heard that the magic system is very intricate.
It is.
So I really want to soak it in.
Yeah. So those are my reading goals, I guess.
Nice.
For the year.
Very cool. I haven't made any yet. But I did just start watching. I'm always late to every party because that's how we roll. Just like Schitt's Creek. I was just like, I watched the first season. I was like, I can't stand Roland. I can't do this. And then I went back to it like a couple of years later. And I was like, oh, okay, I love this show.
Yeah.
So, sometimes I'm just slower to the popular things sometimes. But I just started watching Wheel of Time.
Ooh.
On Amazon Prime. And really it just made me go, okay, I feel like I need to read these books because I feel like I'd be getting so much more information right now.
Yeah. I have had the Wheel of Time on every list I have written for years. It's just so daunting. There's so many.
Because is that one like a really...
It's 14,
Okay, 14.
I think.
That's what I thought.
Interestingly, Robert Jordan, who is the author, he died before he finished. And so Brandon Sanderson finished the last 2 or 3
Nice.
of the Wheel of Time.
It did seem like, even though I haven't read any Brandon Sanderson, just from what I've heard, that seems like a good fit.
Yeah.
So, that's cool.
Robert Jordan tapped him specifically to finish it. So
Nice.
Yeah.
It's good when an author like chooses their successor, if you will.
Yeah. A lot of people
just in case
have said if George Martin were to die before finishing A Song of Ice and Fire, that they would like Brandon Sanderson to finish it, but that would never fit because Brandon Sanderson it writes clean, and A Song of Ice and Fire would never fit the way he writes,
right?
Because it's gritty and dirty and crass.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure who could.
I don't know.
Could Sarah do it? Maybe?
No. She couldn't capture that voice.
Okay.
Because
I've read Sarah. I have not read George. So,
Yeah.
but I thought maybe if because she's tried different types of fantasy. So that's why I thought maybe, but honestly, I don't know. That was just literally the first thing that popped in my head. Please don't come for me.
Yeah. Sarah, the way she writes is much more hopeful. So
He's more bleak.
yeah, he's like the Orwellian version of Tolkien.
Oh, if only.
So.
Only Orwell could finish it.
Yeah, George Orwell could easily get in that mindset and write.
Just add a dash of fantasy instead of that future sci-fi sort of. Not really sci-fi, but it feels like sci-fi. I don't know.
I think Stephen King is like kind of.
That popped in my head
nudge,
too,
nudge.
because he has.
He probably
he's
could.
done some fantasy and stuff, so yeah.
He probably could get into like the nitty gritty the way that George does, but
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It. Hopefully, George just
get it done.
Finishes
George.
The fucking books, and we don't have to have this conversation.
Stop plaguing my friend, and just finish the books.
The man is like 78.
you know, he's still got time, but
he has time.
He needs to get on it.
But not that much. So.
Unless he's a Chris Traeger and is going to live till he's 120.
Maybe. You never know. Jeez. Anyway. This week we are going back to Middle-earth to resume our journey with the penultimate in the trilogy, The Two Towers.
Ayo. So
we're going to do 2 parts. In this, technically, we are doing books 3 and 4.
Right. That confused me when I picked up the book. I was like, book 3. And I was like, no. Did I grab Return of the King when I left the house? Dang it. And then I was like, no, this is Two Towers. And then I remembered. I was like, right. The first book technically says book 1, book 2. Yeah. So Two Towers is book 3, book 4. Because as you've said, it wasn't meant to be separated as a trilogy. It was just meant to be like one thick, with like 3 C's and 5 K's thick book.
Exactly. So, we are in the middle, books 3 and 4. And obviously the writer of this is JRR Tolkien.
In case you didn't know.
In case you were curious and didn't know, that's who wrote this book.
If you haven't listened to our first episode, The Fellowship of the Ring, you might want to do that.
Yeah.
Unless you just like to live life on the edge and chaotically, you know?
Yeah. Because where Fellowship ends is where the book ends is not where Fellowship the film ends.
Correct.
So you might lose a little something if you do not know how the book ends.
Right.
So I think that is the roof, by the way. I don't think it's
like
inside.
Things like tumbling, or you think
it's squirrels
things
on the
running
roof.
on the roof, not in the roof. Hey, that's good.
Yeah.
Our pod pals are back.
Yeah, because this is where the roof slants.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's the roof, not inside.
The pitter patter of their little feet are just precious.
Yeah,
especially knowing now that it's outside.
They're outdoors,
not inside.
We have so many trees around our house and so many squirrels.
We have tons of squirrels too, though I never hear them running across our roof. But we also have like an attic space in between like what is essentially our ceilings and the roof. So whereas I feel like this is pretty like that's the roof.
Yeah. There's
the room that we're in.
Right. Yeah. There's no attic above this room specifically.
Yeah.
I think there is on the other side of the house. I think in one of our spare bedrooms on the other side, you can get up into above there.
Nice.
But not here.
Nice.
But anyway. Okay. So I like your attempt at the 1-line plot summary for book 3.
Okay.
It was impossible for me.
I know. I was just like, literally so short. I think it's funny that spell check changed Gimli to Jillian.
I just now saw that.
I just now saw it too.
Jillian.
Oh, man. So, but yeah, this one we're basically just following Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli as their part of the journey continues.
That's right.
And this episode, this book covers more than that, obviously. But this episode, we're just going to talk about the journey of those 3.
Exactly. Okay. So, characters. Now, these are the new characters that we're meeting in this book.
Book 3.
Well, this is all of that.
Oh,
all
the
of
whole
Two Towers.
Book. Okay, that's fine.
So first we have Gandalf the White. Mm-hmm. And Shadowfax, his horse.
Yeah.
We get Grima Wormtongue. Ugh. He is advisor to King of Rohan.
Yeah.
They made him look so disgusting.
He really did.
And it was perfect. It's the teeth. Mm-hmm. Oh, whenever he's talking talking with Eowyn and he's really close to her face. Yeah. And he's like, oh.
Well, and he's so sallow and like, worm tongue really suits him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gross. And then we have Theoden, King of Rohan. Mm-hmm. Éomer, which is the leader of the Riders of Rohan.
Which is Theoden's nephew?
Yes, Theoden's nephew. And then Éomer's sister, Éowyn, niece to the king. Faramir, brother to Boromir, captain of Gondor. Mm-hmm. Fangorn, which is Treebeard.
Right. That not confused me, but I was like, oh, so, okay, Fangorn Forest
Treebeard's
belongs
forest.
To this man.
Yeah.
Well, not this man, this Ent.
Ent, yeah. And then Brigalad is another Ent.
Yeah.
And then Ugluk. He's like essentially the main leader guy from the Uruk-hai.
Yeah. Ugluk.
There was another.
It sounds more like a sound than
it
a
does.
name.
Yeah.
And it probably is.
Yeah. There was one other of the Uruk-hai that we got their name for, but it doesn't matter.
Are you talking about like kind of the wormy one that was kind of talking to Pippin and Merry in the forest as they were entering the forest? Or just...
Yeah.
I guess we get some names of some of them, but really...
That doesn't really matter that much.
No, they all have similar goals.
Yeah.
So therefore their personalities are pretty
interchangeable.
Much.
Yeah. Essentially. But I think now I don't know if we ever get any of the names in the film, but I imagine that Ugluk is like the one who's like really big and he's got the white hand on his face.
Yeah, the big beefy one.
The one who like
one
fights
of the big
Aragorn
beefy ones
in the film, even though Aragorn doesn't actually fight any of the orcs at that scene.
Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
The fighting is much shorter in these books.
Yeah.
Obviously in the movie they wanted to be big and grand. I get that.
Of course.
But yeah, it's kind of wild to me. Like I'm sitting there either reading or listening and I'm just like, did I miss something? Did I skip a part? Yeah. No. Okay. I'm not mad about it though. You know?
Yeah.
I get enough.
Long drawn out battle scenes are just, they kind of get boring, you know?
And then you're throwing names around of people that are getting slain left and right. Nobody wants that. No one needs that.
Yeah. And it's also kind of difficult, like, in a battle, so much shit is happening at once.
Right.
So time isn't really moving as you're writing it.
Right.
Because you have to be, like, at this part of the battle, and then you have to be over here, and then you have to be over there, and it just becomes very confusing.
Right. And there's already enough going on in these books. So right. We didn't need all that.
Yeah, we didn't need a ton of that. All right. So let's hop into our plot points. So essentially, at the beginning of this book is just after Sam and Frodo go down the river in the boat.
Right. Everyone, I think, is still in the woods looking for Frodo because last we saw of them, Boromir came back to the group and was like, and they were like, where's Frodo? And he was like, So we kind of had a little argument.
Yeah.
I don't want to really talk about it. We just had a little argument and then he ran away. So I don't know. So then, of course, Merry and Pippin run off to go find him. Mm-hmm. Aragorn's like, Boromir, please go follow them and watch over them. Yes. We don't need more hobbits getting lost in the woods. Okay.
Exactly.
Gimli and Legolas go run off. Aragorn runs off.
Yeah.
And Sam's trying to keep up with his little legs after Aragorn.
Yeah. And I think...
Well, no, that was the end of that one.
That was the end of Fellowship, yeah.
Sam turned around, hightailed back, but so Aragorn's still in the woods, thinking Sam's maybe somewhere behind him.
Right.
Trying to find Frodo.
Yeah, so obviously Sam catches up to Frodo and they leave. So that's the end of Fellowship.
Right.
And so where we come up here is Aragorn basically in the woods, and he's kind of like, what's going on? Because he can hear orcs coming. And he's like, what do I do?
Right, I can't track Frodo. I don't see any footprints.
There are no footprints. And so he's unsure, and then he hears the horn of Gondor, and he's like, shit, Boromir needs help. So he runs to Boromir, and he's too late.
And it's just nuts. It's like, we're searching for Frodo, and then all of a sudden, these orcs and Uruk-hai, like, come through like a wave and leave without Gimli, Legolas, or Aragorn ever encountering them.
Yeah. Yeah, Boromir is the only one who encounters the group of orcs.
Yeah.
And
him and
and
Merry
the
twins. They are not twins.
Yeah, him and Merry and Pippin.
Yeah.
So by the time Aragorn gets to Boromir has got arrows in the chest. Dude's down.
But he took a bunch.
He took a lot of arrows, and he tells Aragorn that he tried to take the ring from Frodo.
And he's sorrowful about it. He is. And repentant.
He is. He's upset. And Aragorn, I mean, then basically he dies.
Right. But they had a really nice conversation there, and a little, like, bonding, and he acknowledges Aragorn as his king, and it's very sweet.
It is very sweet. It's very similar to, like, the scene in the film.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So
just maybe a little bit more conversation than the movie, but yeah, really good.
So then, right as soon as he dies, essentially, is when Legolas and Gimli arrive on scene, and they're like, we don't know where the hobbits are. And so they do Boromir's funeral. They put him in a boat, send him down to the river with his horn and his sword. All his gear.
Yeah.
And so he's off, and now the three of them are like, well, where do we go now?
Right. Like, what do we do?
What do we do?
They don't know the location of any of the hobbits.
Yeah. They have no idea where anyone is.
Because I don't think Boromir tells them, because I don't think he knows what happened to Merry and Pippin. He just knows he was trying to protect them, or chasing after them to protect them, and ran into
the
orcs and stuff. So they don't know where any of the hobbits are, though luckily Aragorn is super smart at tracking and just deducing things, which we see in the movies for sure, but I feel like it's just cool to read it in the books, you know?
Yeah, it is.
But he pretty much deduces that Sam or Frodo had to have taken one of the boats because one of the boats is missing. And if Frodo went, then surely Sam went as well. And I think their packs were
gone,
missing as well.
And Sam's pack was different than everyone else's because he was carrying, like, pots and pans.
Right, he was carrying a lot more, so that's why they noticed his was missing. So they essentially were like, well, okay. But they still kind of toil back and forth a little bit, like, okay, so then do we follow Frodo and Sam? Or do we maybe go looking for the other two? We're not sure what happened.
Right, yeah, because Aragorn's really torn, because he's like, I swore to take Frodo to the gates of Mordor. And I need to follow him. Yeah,
because in the movie, you get that nice moment of Aragorn, like, kind of reluctantly releasing Frodo to his mission alone. You know,
I would have gone with you to the end.
Yeah, and beyond. You know, like, such a, like, cool moment. But, so they don't get to have that. So.
Right.
But eventually, they're like, you know, we got to assume that the other two are alive and captured, and we got to...
They need our help more than Frodo and Sam.
Right.
Yeah. So they eventually land on that and can pick up the orc trail. Yeah. Even though they can't really pick up a hobbit trail.
Well, hobbits are so light and small, and, you know, they're good for sneaking.
Yeah. And like we learned in The Hobbit, hobbits can move through the woods basically silently. They're so light-footed.
Yeah.
So obviously their tracks would be virtually non-existent as well.
Right.
So
Sorry, it just made me think about how when I think I'm stepping light-footedly throughout the house, Caleb says I'm stomping still. Like, I was walking gently. He's like, you tromp around upstairs. I just boom, boom, booming every time. I can hear you whenever you walk anywhere. I'm like, man.
Lie to me.
Right, I know. I need to take some Hobbit classes to like really get that light-footedness going on.
That's funny. Ugh.
But yeah, so basically they rely on Aragorn's tracking skills, and then Legolas can kind of see them with his elf sight.
He can.
Though sometimes he loses sight of them, but they can, I don't know if hear them, but they just kind of have these ways to like kind of know that they're either
on the path
if they've stopped, but like pretty much these Uruk-hai have not stopped, which is unusual. Generally, they only move at night. So they're also assuming that they're in urgency because they are not really stopping.
Right. So which kind of like just doubles down on the fact that they probably have the hobbits.
Right. And these three are exhausted because they've rested when they felt like they should, but probably not nearly enough.
Yeah.
But it's like if the orcs and the Uruk-hai are like moving constantly, they feel like they need to be too, so they don't lose sight of them or lose their trail.
Exactly. So as they're chasing after the orcs, they eventually find themselves on the lands of Rohan. And
enter sweet, cool fiddle violin music. No, just kidding. They do have some of like the most beautiful, I don't know, I mean all the movies have beautiful music, but when you hear the Rohirrim, the Rohan music, you know.
Yeah, I know like the Shire music is very iconic, but I think my favorite is the Rohirrim.
Yeah.
The March of the Rohirrim or whatever it's called.
Oh, it's so lovely.
Whoever scored these films is a genius. They're wild.
I'm sure they got awards, and if they didn't...
Oh, they had to have.
We better... That needs to be rectified, but I'm certain that they did.
We're going to start a petition.
Right.
For the composer
Retroactive awards.
Yeah.
But yeah, they run into the Riders of Rohan, which are led by Éomer. He's the third marshal of the Riddermark. Which, is that what that area is called? The Riddermark?
I think so, yeah.
It just sounds cool.
It sounds so cool.
But Aragorn basically explains to Éomer that they are hunting a group of orcs who took 2 hobbits captive.
Yeah.
And Éomer's like, oh, well, we destroyed a group of orcs the night before, but I didn't see any hobbits.
Yeah.
So they must be among the dead because we basically killed everybody that was in that group.
Essentially, yeah.
Right. So Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli are, probably instantly, like, a little part of them's devastated, but they're also kind of like, I don't know if you know what a hobbit is. Let me make sure that you understand.
Yeah, and that's when Gimli is like, hey, this is what a hobbit is.
Yeah.
They're essentially like halflings.
They'd be like children to your eyes.
Yeah.
It's so funny to me. Like, I know that the hobbits are like tucked away in the Shire and stuff, but there are so many creatures in this world that like do not know what halflings are.
Yeah.
Or hobbits. Like,
no one outside the Shire except like Gandalf and Aragorn know hobbits, essentially. And like Rivendell. Yeah,
it's sort of like, so I'd understand if you'd never seen one, but you haven't even heard a story? I don't believe that.
And I think that's what Éomer says here. He's like, I thought those were just made up for stories. I didn't think hobbits were real, or halflings were real.
Right.
So strange.
It's like, okay. But then again, the world of men are probably really just consumed by the world of men.
Yeah, that's kind of the implication, I think.
And they've kind of been having their own battles going on, so,
Yeah, exactly.
They're busy.
They have their own shit to worry about.
Yeah.
But at this point, Éomer also, like, warns them about Saruman. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, dude has been corrupted. So watch your backs.
Right. Which they knew because Gandalf told them.
Yeah, they knew.
But still.
But yeah, so he tells them that, and Aragorn tells Éomer about Gandalf's death.
Yeah. Sad day.
So essentially they part on good terms. Éomer is like, I give you passage.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like you run into all these lands that like have these rules. Mm-hmm. Like, and we'll, in the next episode we'll talk about another one. But it's just like these areas with these rules. It's just like, yeah, you're not supposed to be here, and the penalty is death. It's like,
sick.
Sorry, did you have a sign? I missed it. What?
Yeah, now entering Rohan.
Right.
Trespassers will be killed.
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially kind of, they're like, yeah, you're not supposed to be here. We don't allow just strangers walking up in our yard, basically.
Yeah. Off with your head.
Right. But luckily they, got along and trust each other. So he's like, yeah, okay, you can hang out in my land, and
here's some horses.
Yeah. But that's not typical.
Not typical.
So.
At all.
But our boys, they're charming and they're good men. So.
Yeah.
Men being man, elf, and dwarf, but.
Yeah. And probably throwing around the name of Gandalf doesn't hurt.
No, because unlike the hobbits, everyone knows Gandalf.
Exactly. So they continue on. They're searching for Merry and Pip with no luck, and they end up kind of camping right on the edge of Fanghorn Forest. Mm-hmm. So this is when we first hear about the Ents. Legolas is telling Gimli and Aragorn about the Ents that are rumored to live in the forest. They're tree people. Tree guardians. And Gimli has a vision of an old man in a cloak wearing a large hat. And he assumes that this is Saruman.
Yeah.
Trying to trick them, and when they wake up, their horses are gone.
Yeah. Great.
Oh, sick.
Peace out, horses.
It's been real.
Right. Didn't Gimli kind of have not an argument, but he's like, yeah, I'm not going to sit on I'm not going to take one of your horses, and not even no, I don't want your charity. I don't know. He had this weird thing about getting on one of their horses. So Legolas is like, okay, then you can ride on one with me. But
yeah, I think so.
We can't wait for you to walk, bro.
Yeah. I always wondered, what I think, because I also think Gimli had a weird thing about horses anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe he just doesn't like being that high off the ground.
Yeah, could be.
Could
be. But
dwarves are kind of stout underground folk, so.
Yeah. Very rooted to the earth.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a mountain.
Exactly. Under which they live.
Yep. I did want to ask you about this, because later we do find out that the person he saw, Gandalf's like, nope, that wasn't me. But we don't really get confirmation necessarily. But was it Saruman?
I don't know, because later.
I feel like it's left unsaid.
It's unresolved kind of, because I
was worried that maybe I missed something, so that's why I wanted to ask you.
Yeah. No, I don't think we ever get confirmation that it was certainly Saruman. I think since Gimli's assuming it, we're supposed to assume it.
Mm-hmm. And Gandalf's like, yeah, no, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, but we already told you he's in this book, so.
Yeah, well. Yeah. But yeah, I also think Gandalf, he wouldn't release their horses.
No.
So,
exactly.
We have to assume it was Saruman. But It seems weird that he would just release their horses and not, attack them.
Yeah, I don't...
But I don't
He's kind of a chicken, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's just
very weird.
Sometimes I feel like he's just moving pieces on the chessboard without... Mm-hmm. Not necessarily without a plan, but, just... I don't know, just to mess with them, I guess.
Yeah, just to...
thwart them enough, but not fully engage. Probably because... I don't know.
Maybe he's just trying to delay them and not necessarily
Right.
Yeah.
Like I say, he's just a chicken.
He's just a chicken.
Doing everything from afar.
Moving in the night.
Right.
So, whenever we begin the next chapter after the horses are discovered missing, essentially we move to Merry and Pippin.
Yes.
So, we know that they're alive and they are captives of the orcs.
Alive. Huzzah! Captured. Oh no.
But the orcs have orders, essentially, like, grab the hobbits, don't search them, don't pillage them, don't kill them, don't harm them.
Deliver them unspoiled.
Unspoiled. Eek.
Which feels like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
But that is a word they used.
It is indeed. So, at the beginning, Pippin has this, like, little recollection of the battle between the orcs and Boromir.
Yeah, that's when we get the full picture of what happened.
Exactly. And Pippin's, like, last view was Boromir, like, being shot and trying to, like, pull the arrow out of his chest.
Yeah. I mean, the man took several arrows. He was a warrior.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Poor Sean Bean. You know what? If they would have stuck to the actual timeline of the book, Sean Bean would have made it to the second movie.
This is true. But it wouldn't have changed how long he was there because they were filming those movies for 3 years.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
All at the same time.
Like, and I just watched a video recently because I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember. But yeah, it's like they were filming all 3 at the same time. So it's like they might do a scene. Okay, this one's for Fellowship. Okay, now this one is for Return to the King.
Yeah.
It's like, which is smart because you don't want to have to go back and forth to sets. But at the same time, like, that's wild.
That is so wild.
I don't think any project has ever been filmed that way before or since.
I agree.
But, I mean,
it
paid off.
It really paid off.
So.
I think, and honestly, it probably saved them money as well.
Yeah.
Because they were just there and they could have, like, the set and then shoot that for, like, however many times they needed to be in that place for the entire trilogy.
Right. Like, well, like Harry Potter had to go back and rebuild sets multiple times.
Exactly.
Because obviously the kids age and things change. So it's like they couldn't have done what Lord of the Rings did.
No.
But just to say, it's just, yeah, when you have to rebuild or go back to a set, you know, sometimes they can keep sets, sometimes they can't.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's costly to rebuild and whatnot. So, yeah.
But I have heard that Lord of the Rings was super unique because it was unheard of at that time to have such a huge budget for movies like that because, I mean, Harry Potter wasn't out yet when they were filming because the first Lord of the Rings and the first Harry Potter both came out in 2001.
Right. And they had been filming for 3 years. And then also, then he was editing the films after that.
Exactly.
So
before that, there weren't really live action high fantasies that were utilizing a good portion of practical effects like that. So he almost didn't get the budget that he had to use for these movies.
Yeah, New Line almost got a little nervous, but thankfully
they gave the go-ahead and took that risk. But, I mean, because obviously it paid off.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah.
Surely it's still paying off with all the merch and such.
It's just like Harry Potter. Both of those franchises are almost like eternal at this point.
Right.
So.
But the only difference is if you want to do a Harry Potter show, I'm tentatively okay with it. If you touch Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, there's... When I heard the rumor about the Rings of Power, obviously, when I heard the rumor before it was announced what the story was going to be, it was just like Lord of the Rings show. I was like panicked.
Part of it,
no, you're not.
Yeah, parts of it felt like it fit, and then other parts of it didn't. For me,
I have not watched any of it,
but I haven't read the Silmarillion and all the other jazz. But for me, it was okay.
Yeah. I also haven't read the Silmarillion and kind of daunted by it, but
yeah, I got it for Christmas one year or my birthday last year or something like that. But
I own the audiobook, but
right. So one day maybe, but that day is not this day.
Yeah.
But anyway,
back to Merry and Pippin.
Right.
Our captives.
Our poor little captives.
Yeah. So they're just trucking along. They make them march instead of like, I think they carry them sometimes, but they give them this like orc liquor.
Yeah, which actually kind of heals them or at least takes away their pains.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds awful.
Yeah.
I guess at least it's helpful, but it sounds awful.
Yeah, it like gives them the energy to like continuously march with the orcs.
And it's like we have two different groups. Like one is from Isengard or Orthanc, and then the other is from Mordor. So we have a little bit of infighting too of like who's in charge or who's better. Or, you know, I think they kind of feel like they have the same goal, but maybe different because one is for Sauron and one is for Sauron.
Exactly.
Even though the Sauron ones should really be for Sauron also. It's, you know, we have a little bit of...
Yeah, trickery.
Yeah, or a little bit of like...
Power struggle.
Yeah, I don't know. Among this group of beasts.
Yeah, because this is, you know, the Uruk-hai, they serve Saruman. Mm-hmm. Then they have the white hand of Saruman. So they're kind of like... we're in charge, and we're bigger than you.
Right.
So
I can thump you into the ground. What do you mean?
Exactly.
So, but during some of that infighting, Pippin takes advantage and kind of breaks his bindings. He still kind of pretends like he's bound, but... Because Mary's a little more worse for wear. Yeah. Like, I think he's, like, knocked out for part of it, too. Or
I think so.
Just... more injured or whatever.
Pippin is the one who's like
we gotta get out of this.
Waiting for that opportunity.
Yeah.
So he manages to cut his bindings.
But still in capture.
Right.
But he's taking steps.
Yeah, he's watching all of the orcs very intently, which is interesting.
Yeah. So
at this point, basically, Ugluk and his crew, the Uruk-hai, they're kind of like, you know what? We're not dealing with this anymore.
Right.
And they snatch up Merry and Pippin, and they just fucking take off. They're just booking it and leaving the Mordor
crew behind.
Plebes behind. Because Saruman bred the Uruk-hai.
Right.
And so... he made them bigger, stronger, and faster.
Yeah. Well, and some of them were like whining. They're tired. They didn't want to keep, you know.
Yeah. So they easily leave the Mordor clan behind. Mm-hmm. They're just like, bye. But they're not like they're not following the same rules as the Mordor group. And they're like looking on Merry and Pippin. They're like looking through all their shit, searching for the ring.
Yeah.
To take it.
Yeah.
To Saruman.
And there's like one specifically that kind of is trying to, I don't know, talk it out of them or trying to find out why they're so important kind of thing. Yeah. Which, it was interesting, and I was going to ask you about this too, because I swore, because this part of the chapter I listened to on the audiobook, like the character said like Golem or something, like had a little like, you know, I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. So what was that about?
I think maybe he was... Because the orcs had Gollum at one point before, like... That's how they knew that the ring was in the Shire. And so I think they know of that creature. I don't know that they call him Gollum. Mm-hmm. So I think they're repeating... What he said.
Okay. Because that confused me. I was like... What? So, but to them, they were like, you know, associating Golem or the sound of Golem with the ring. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That I was just like, wait, what? I know this isn't like Golem in disguise, like being like, hey, give me my ring back, you know, kind of thing, because that's not him. But yeah, that threw me off a little bit. So there's just so much going on.
There's so much stuff happening.
So anyway, thank you for clearing that up.
That's my assumption, at least.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So, yeah, while they're, like, interrogating them and trying to, like, search them for the ring, bing, bang, boom, we get the Riders of Rohan coming in.
Yeah.
They're like, listen here. You guys are not welcome.
Right.
Time to die.
Yeah, they don't get to talk their way out of it.
Nah.
And they don't get any horses.
None. They don't even get to keep their lives.
Nope.
So the Riders of Rohan essentially kill all of the Uruk-hai.
Yeah.
That are in this group.
Right.
Merry and Pippin hide under their elf cloaks because it like camouflages you.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get the opportunity, they book it right into the forest.
Right.
So they have escaped.
Yeah, basically.
Unscathed.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Mostly, yeah.
So.
Thank goodness.
Thank the Lords.
But Pippin does, or maybe both of them, drop one of their brooches.
That's
just
right.
kind of on purpose. Like,
yeah.
It's either their brooches or like the little belts or something, but they drop something.
Their brooch.
I think earlier on they find the belt at some point, and that's when they're like, "Oh no, they might be dead." But
yeah,
but this is a sign of, hey, we're still alive.
Yeah, because Merry and Pippin have like kind of faith that people are gonna come after them.
Yeah, Pippin's been, like I said, scheming this whole time. Like, I'm gonna leave a breadcrumb here. I'm gonna take off my ropes now. Just waiting for that right opportunity.
Yeah,
So yeah.
As silly and like, happy-go-lucky as Pippin is, he has like intense foresight.
Him and Mary both are a lot less trickstery in the books than they are in the films.
A lot less Fred and George in the books.
And sometimes I'm like, at least until later, I'm like, dang, Gandalf, like, why are you so mad at Pippin?
I know.
At least in the first book, I was like, I don't recall him doing anything to intentionally tick you off, but, well, boy, sir. Now later, yeah, okay.
That's kind of a big deal.
Right. That's a big, you shouldn't have done that, but
yeah.
Anyway,
right.
They run into the forest, which they didn't know is Fangorn Forest, which most people do not enter. But when it's Uruk-hai / Rohirrim Battle Death or
the trees,
you choose the trees.
That's right.
And that's when they meet Treebeard / Fangorn. Mm-hmm. He is, as we said before, an Ent.
Yep.
And he talks with Merry and Pippin about the history of the forest and the Ents. And he also talks about the evil of Saruman and kind of how he's changed. He used to be a friend to them.
Yeah, he used to like chit chat with Saruman.
Yeah, but not anymore.
Not anymore.
And he like tells them multiple times about like the Ent wives and how they've lost them. And he's like, maybe I need to come visit the Shire because that kind of sounds like a place that the Ent wives would have wanted to go.
Yeah.
It just made it sound like all these Ent wives were like, listen, I don't want to live here anymore. Can we move?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, like, we're comfortable here. And they were like, well, we're not. Peace out.
Yeah.
And they went to go find their own adventures or little piece of paradise or something. So,
yeah.
But I just thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah. Question to the group. Where are the Ent wives?
Yeah. Have you seen them?
Yeah. Give us a holler.
Right. But it's so sweet. He's like, yeah, when you go back, like, keep an eye out.
Can you ask around?
Yeah. Can you see if they're about?
I lost my wife.
That's like when you lose your spouse at the grocery store or Walmart. You're like asking around like times a million.
Yeah. Have you seen?
Yeah.
Silly.
Yep. And then they tell Treebeard the story of the Fellowship to a point,
Yeah, they don't tell him about the ring specifically.
Right. But they tell as much as they can.
Yeah.
And then they spend the night in Treebeard's Ent house. And then after that, then there's a gathering of the Ents called an Entmoot for them to discuss just kind of the state of the world and if they're going to get involved. Mm-hmm. And that's when we meet Bregalad, the kind of other Ent that we
get a name for.
Yeah. And then he kind of talks about like how the orcs are treating the forest and whatnot.
Yeah.
Are you clicking your nails?
Oh, yeah.
I just kept hearing a little click and I was like, what is that? And I was like, oh, maybe she's fidgeting.
I am a fidgeter.
It's okay. I have this little thing. It looks like a green hair tie, but it's just like a zigzaggy little, supposed to be like a fidget toy. I keep forgetting to give it to you. So like, she would like that maybe. But yeah, sorry. I kept hearing it. I was like, what is, oh.
Yeah, because I can feel under my nail where my natural nail is
Yes.
and where the extension is.
And that's definitely something I would pick at too.
Yeah. It's weird.
So sorry to call you out.
This is why I chew gum. Gum kind of like
satiates that, like,
it does.
Fidgety. I got you.
And I just like to chew gum.
Yeah.
I've always been a gum. So when I left my purse at home the other day, I was like, as soon as I realized I didn't have gum with me, my whole mouth was just like dry instantly. Like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it.
Mentally, your brain was like, oh no.
Yeah. And my chapstick.
And then it sucked up all the moisture out of your mouth.
Yeah. I didn't have my chapstick and I didn't have my gum. And I was just like, I'm in the desert. Luckily, I did find chapstick in my car.
Yes. What a...
No gum. So, that was some shit. But, I mean, the first day back to work after being off for like 12 days.
Yeah.
So, it makes sense that happened.
Right.
It seems par for the course.
Right.
So, after the Entmoot and the whole like part with the Ents feels like a long time. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of like dialogue with the Ents, which I think is really interesting. It just, not a lot happens.
Right.
So they're like debating, do we get involved, do we not get involved? Eventually, they decide, yeah, we gotta.
Right.
And I think it's probably because of Brie Galad's discussion of like, this is what the orcs are doing.
Yeah, this is what I've seen. So
they're chopping up trees, burning them, blah blah blah, and they're like, all right, war cries, we're marching on Isengard.
Right.
And Brie Galad marches next to Treebeard.
Yeah, I always like that. I have he doesn't say appointment, but whatever he says, I have an appointment with them with a rockin' stone. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Or in the movie, rockin' stone. And he like rolls his R's and such.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Very nice.
It's a cool moment.
So the trees are on the move.
Yep.
They're about to sack Isengard.
As it deserves.
Deservedly so.
And then we switch POVs or whatever, or at least who we're hanging out with.
Yep.
And we're back with Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli.
Mm-hmm.
Not whatever my computer autos.
Jillian.
Aragorn, Legolas, and Jillian. Back with Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. And they are at the scene where the battle between the Rohirrim and the Uruk-hai, or orcs, took place. And this is when they find Pip's little stuff that he left behind, and they kind of are able to kind of track their movements a little bit, Mm-hmm. They weren't being light-footed. They were
really stomping them
running for their lives. So I think he was able to track them a little bit and sees that they went into the forest.
Right. And this is when they run into the old man in the cloak. And at first they're like, all right, it's on sight. We're about to shoot this guy.
Yeah.
Death.
Right. Because Sauron, it's like, you can't let him speak or he will have power over you. So.
Yes, he's Trixie.
Yeah.
But Aragorn is like, no, let's talk to this one.
Mm-hmm.
And so they ask about Merry and Pip. And instead of answering, the old man basically like jumps up onto a rock and is like, what? It's Gandalf the White.
If we saw someone just jump up on a rock and throw their cloak off, we'd be like, ah! Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I thought something else was happening.
I thought this was my chance. You were going to take me on a journey, but yeah, okay.
Right.
Never mind. The moment has passed. So Gandalf the White is on scene. He passed through fire and deep water to defeat the Balrog and has been reborn.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. You shall not pass.
Such a great moment.
It really is.
There might be a lot of like talking and things going on in betweens, but these books have a lot of great moments.
They do.
And some wonderful dialogue.
Yeah. And what the books really require of you is to slow down. Mm-hmm. It's like, just slow down.
Live here a while.
Yeah, sit in the story a while. Get to know this one. Get to know that one. This isn't about
the next adventure.
This isn't the quick-paced about the battles.
Right.
It's about the in-between.
Yeah.
So, if you have, like, the films in your mind as you're going into reading the books, it's going to be kind of a letdown because they're just very different vibes.
I think it'll help you kind of stay on track. You can kind of like, oh, okay, I remember that moment. But don't expect the same pacing necessarily, because the movies, one, have to cram it all into a film, but two, sometimes they add some dramatic flair.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Because movies need dramatic flair.
Yeah, exactly. And this is written in, like, the 30s.
Yeah.
So, it was, like, one of a kind.
Storytelling was different then,
Storytelling was super different.
He's a unique writer as well.
Yeah.
And
so, it's not like the fantasy that we're currently consuming. Like, you have to sit in it longer. And you have to appreciate the language as well.
Right.
So, anyway, now Gandalf, he's dropping some knowledge first thing.
Yeah.
Immediately, he's like, Saruman has betrayed Sauron and wants the ring for himself. Mm-hmm. And that Sauron is so focused sending his people abroad to find Frodo that he has left the gates of Mordor unguarded for the most part. I mean, there are people there, but his armies aren't.
Right. He's got his own little side agenda.
That's right. He just doesn't assume that a tiny hobbit is going to make the journey to Mount Doom.
Right. I kind of feel like Sauron and Saruman both, like, can't fathom that anyone would destroy the ring. They just assume people are going to use it for their own means. They can't even fathom the idea of someone wanting to destroy it. Why would you destroy it?
Right. Exactly. Which is their downfall.
Right.
Which is very similar to themes in Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. Like, what Voldemort doesn't understand, he just doesn't even give a second thought to.
Right. Even, and maybe it's different in the show, but, like, I'm only, like, 2 or 3 episodes into the Wheel of Time, and already 2 conversations have been literally like at least a line of dialogue is almost like word for word for stuff that's in Lord of the Rings. Not like they're plagiarizing necessarily. It's just like there were just 2 instances where I was like, yep, you know, because it was like one was about like the time given to do what you can with the time that's given to us, kind of like that whole conversation that Gandalf has with Frodo is like that one, and then something else. But both times I was like, oh, inspired by Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
Inspired by Lord of the Rings again.
Which I think you can trace Lord of the Rings in almost any fantasy that exists.
Which there's so much in it.
Yeah.
And it's so vast and I mean, you can't fault anyone. And also it's like, if someone does something first, it's not necessarily that everyone's ripping them off. It's just like, well, they did it first. If you use it now, they'll just, that was the first reference, you know, kind of thing too. But.
And everyone is inspired by someone else. Mm-hmm. So that's automatically going to kind of guide what you're creating.
Yeah.
Because no idea is original. You know, I mean, every idea has been done. It could be unique in the way that you tell the story or whatever,
Right.
but you're still inspired by something else. Like, even Tolkien is taking a lot of what he wrote from mythology.
Yeah.
So even though the story is unique in the way that he wrote it and told it, it's still inspired by something else.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. I know people give, like, new series and stuff a lot of shit for, like, lifting things from Lord of the Rings. Like, Throne of Glass, a lot of the battles in there. Specifically, I think it's the battle at Orinth at the end.
Yeah.
They're like, this is written exactly like the Battle of Helm's Deep. And I'm just like, okay, sure. I could see it, but...
At the same time, a battle's a battle. Like,
yeah, you can't get that. It's just this side against that side.
Right.
Good, bad.
Right.
Fighting, death.
Right.
I mean, how creative can you get with it? But also, the Battle of Helm's Deep is fucking sick.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to write their version of Helm's Deep?
Right.
Let's be honest.
Right.
We're going to get there in this book.
Yep. We're not getting too distracted, but I guess we better get on with it.
We better put our...
But yeah.
Yeah.
After all that, the 4 of them now set off for Isengard, and on their way, they see Edoras, and so they go to the court of Theoden, King of Rohan.
That's right. So they arrive at Edoras, and the guards are like, nah.
Yeah.
No one's allowed in at times of war by the order of Grima Wormtongue.
I feel like the book said he'd only been there a couple days or something, or maybe I misread that, but I was like, he sure got a lot done in a couple days. What?
Yeah, in the film, it makes it seem like Grima Wormtongue is there much longer.
Yeah.
But I do think he's only there for a short time.
Yeah.
But Gandalf is not accepting this. And he's like, nah, I'm here to see Theoden, so let me in.
Right.
And so they let him in, and they're like, all your weapons, leave at the door, blah, blah, blah. But Gandalf ends up keeping his staff, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go into the hall, and we see Theoden, Wormtongue, and Éowyn.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when Wormtongue, he comes in hot. He's insulting Gandalf off the jump.
Right.
Like, bud, read the room.
Because even the other guys were like, we're really not supposed to trust newcomers and stuff. But yeah, you guys do seem legit. So yeah go on.
I like your vibe.
Right.
You can come in.
I like your vibe. That's essentially what happened.
Essentially, yeah. And Wormtongue, he, coming in hot, and Gandalf is like, nah, dude. And...
You're full of nonsense. I'm going to need you to shut it.
Shut your trap. And he, sends some magic his way, knocks him down. Basically shows him what's what.
Yep.
And then Gandalf is like, Theoden, hey, this guy's poison.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what he's doing. He's allowing Saruman into your lands, giving Saruman strength. You need to just get up off your throne, regain your strength, and be the king.
Cut that sucker loose.
That's right. Who are you? You're Theoden King.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you're right.
And it's not like a big grand thing like in the movie.
No, it's not.
But he does have a magical, suppression on him.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Which is lifted, but it's not the same as in the film. But
not quite.
Which is such a primo scene. But
it is such a good
It was still good in the book.
it's still good. And Theoden is basically like, Wormtongue, you're a traitor. And he tells him, fight with me against Isengard or be gone.
Yeah, but he was trying to give him mercy and give him a chance.
He was, yeah.
It wasn't just like, well, stick with me or you're out. It was literally like, come on, fight with me. You know that guy's trash. Fight with me.
Mm-hmm.
Or, get out.
Yeah.
But, like, I feel like it was a lot more merciful than what Grima deserved.
Oh, sure.
By far.
Yeah. But obviously, Wormtongue flees. He's like, see ya.
Yeah.
And we also find out that Theoden had Éomer imprisoned as well.
Yeah.
Like, hey.
I think in the movie he's just, like, banished or something.
Right, yeah.
He's, like, actually imprisoned.
So he releases him, obviously. And at this point, they're all like,
we be pals.
yeah, yay. And so they give Gandalf and crew weapons and mail and all this cool stuff.
Isn't Gimli's, like, from when Theoden was, like, not a child, but, like, from his youth?
Yeah.
Which I liked. I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Rather than chainmail that's, like, to the floor. And he's like,
this is your floor-length gown?
Right.
Chainmail.
Yeah. This'll fit, right?
Yeah. And Gandalf keeps only Shadowfax because apparently Shadowfax was a gift from Theoden.
Yeah.
So Gandalf is like, can I just keep the horse? Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah.
He's my BFF anyway, so you can't tear us apart even if you want to.
That's right.
I don't think he said that, but he had to have been thinking it.
Certainly. Certainly.
So then they all ride off to fight, you know. They know who their enemy is and they know what's going on in the world. So but then as always, something in the distance alarms Gandalf, so he diverts from the group. He just tells them to continue on Helm's Deep and to stay away from the open plains of Isen.
Yep.
But yeah, so he's always going off doing his own thing.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'll be back.
Yeah. And he always is.
Yeah. I know he does in the movie, but I believe he does in the book too. It's just kind of like, you know, on this day or, you know, look for me on the hill, you know, whatever.
I think it's the morning of the 5th day or something like that.
Right. So yeah, at least he's like, don't worry, I'll be back.
Right. So they get to Helm's Deep and Theoden tells the crew that Sauron knows the area super well and that he foresees a battle there between them and the forces of Isengard. And Bud was right.
Yep.
Because then we have...
He read the room, or the realm, correctly.
He read the realm. And we then have the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
So, this is an epic battle. It's such a great scene. Do we have elves at Helm's Deep?
I don't think so.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I was going to say, I was like, it felt like it was missing something, and I was like, I don't think the elves show up.
Yeah.
I just think it's
Rohan, and then Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas. So we have one elf.
Yep. And we don't have a big pause, like, where they're, you know, like, kind of arguing about who they have to use to battle, but they do make a comment, like, some of them have seen too few or too many winters.
Yeah.
But
and they're
all ready to fight.
They're all ready to fight. Obviously, after traveling from Edoras to Helm's Deep, the forces of Rohan are tired. They are weary. And the orcs are fresh.
They didn't even get, like, a chance to breathe. It was just like, oh, we get here. Oh.
Boom.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's an army outside.
Yeah.
Great. So,
there are sheer numbers of orcs. Just orc after orc after orc. And it's sucking. And, you know, but then, obviously, they hold out through the night. And who shows up but Gandalf?
Like he promised.
With the Riders of Rohan.
And they finish the job.
The orcs are feared. They're so afraid.
Yeah.
When Gandalf and the Riders of Rohan show up.
Isn't it funny when, like, a fresh group shows up and they're just like, I'm scared. And then they just start running. It's like, you big whiners.
I know. I think that's also kind of like a theme. The orcs are not really fighting for a purpose. Mm-mm. They're fighting under orders.
Yeah.
And then you have, like, Rohan and our group fighting for actual purpose. Mm-hmm. So even if
for life and freedom. So
so even if they're outnumbered by orcs, their purpose drives them.
Yes.
And it
makes them stronger for it.
Overcome. Mm-hmm. So they defeat the orcs at the Battle of Helm's Deep.
And we are victorious. Yay!
Yay! And they do give themselves some celebration after the victory.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah. I guess we kind of forgot to mention earlier when we saw Éowyn, there was, like, some comments about some looks exchanged or some possible stirred feelings or something, but
a notice of her beauty.
Right. But otherwise we don't get, like, her protesting that she has to go be with the women and children and all that jazz.
Yeah. So now we're off to Isengard.
Yep.
Our crew is off to Isengard.
I think they were fresh for about a minute and then they're like, okay, on to Isengard.
On to the next. And they're not really sure what they're going to find there, essentially.
Right.
So, they don't know if they're heading to more battle, essentially, at this point. So,
but they're willing to risk it because they know that's where they got to go.
They're willing to risk it. And what do they find when they arrive at the Tower of Orthanc?
Saruman hanging up there like a little defeated baby.
Yeah, he's being a real baby, by the way.
And then Merry and Pippin are just, like, hanging out.
Yeah, they're just lounging around, smoking their pipes.
Eating some foods.
Yeah, eating. And they inform Gandalf that Treebeard is awaiting his arrival.
Because, they told Treebeard, they're like, yeah, we're friends of Gandalf, but he passed. And Treebeard's like, nah, I just saw him, like, a couple days ago.
Yeah.
He's good.
He good.
Yeah.
So, Gandalf goes off to find Treebeard, and this is when Pip is essentially telling Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli what has happened. Their time with the orcs, about how they got into the forest, and the Ents, and they broke the dams, and flooded the plains around Isengard, and took out all the orcs that were in the lower levels. And effectively trapped Saruman in the tower.
Right. So he's just up there.
Chilling. Him and Wormtongue.
Yeah. Bro, you jumped out of the... Literally jumped out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah.
Stupid. You should have stayed with Theoden when he gave you the opportunity.
Yeah, because now you're just stuck in a tower with this old man.
Right. This cranky old man.
Yeah, dude. What? Come on. So Gandalf speaks to Saruman and Wormtongue, obviously.
Yeah.
Spoke to him a little bit first, but Saruman tries to sound pitiful and get them to, like, feel bad for him and trick them, but they're like, sorry, bud. We're not falling for this.
Right. But then doesn't he kind of threaten them, like, or not threaten them, but, like, he just tries to make himself sound so powerful.
Yeah.
And
just
like, you've been defeated.
Come on. You're stuck in a tower.
Yeah, you're defeated. So sorry. But not.
Yeah, take the L.
Right. Because I think Gandalf even says at one point I might have been, swayed by your words, but not now.
Not now.
So.
Yep. And Gandalf is just pissed at this point. He breaks Saruman's staff, and Wormtongue throws a crystal ball in an attempt to hit Gandalf.
See, I didn't know if he was trying to hit Gandalf, or I couldn't tell if he was trying to hit them, or if he did it out of, like, I'm mad at Saruman, so here you go.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell which way, if he was trying to help them or hurt them.
I guess you could read it either way, or maybe both.
Yeah. I guess you never really know the intentions of someone like Wormtongue.
That's true.
So.
Because they're loyal unto themselves only. Mm-hmm. So.
And the person who can benefit them the most at the moment.
Exactly. So, we don't know. But he misses Gandalf and it just plops.
Yep. And maybe the book says that he was trying to hit him with it. I couldn't remember, but...
Yeah. So Pip picks up the ball and Gandalf is like, I think you should give me that.
Hand it over, my lad.
Yeah.
You don't need that.
You don't need that thing. And this is when Sauron realizes what Wormtongue had just threw and is enraged.
Yeah.
Because that was a very valuable item to him.
Throwing his little tempe tantrum.
Yep. And Gandalf is like, all right, we're done here.
Yeah.
Ents, let's get the water flowing.
Right.
Lock them in.
Yeah.
They can't get out.
Yeah. Don't let these fools out of here.
Yeah.
Basically, you're in prison now. Have fun.
Bye. So they leave. And Merry's riding with Gandalf and Pip with Aragorn. Mm-hmm. Which is crazy because I feel like Pip is always with Gandalf.
I know.
So
I know.
I was like, oh,
and I didn't remember that. I didn't catch that detail. So, but it is interesting because you would think it'd be the other way around.
Yeah. Especially
Especially where they end up later.
Exactly.
So they just wanted to give them one last chance to socialize before they were separated. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And by they, I mean Tolkien, I guess.
Yeah. So it doesn't specifically say where they're on their way to at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought maybe I
yeah, I mean my
overlooked it, but
yeah, my guess is that they're intending to be on their way to Minas Tirith, but I don't think they say that quite yet.
Or maybe they're going to like another like stronghold of Rohan or just somewhere safe.
Yeah. So
to regroup.
Yeah, exactly. They're on the road and they camp for the night. Everyone's asleep, obviously, except for Pip. Mm-hmm. And he is like, I gotta get my hands on that ball.
He just can't get it out of his head.
Yeah, he cannot stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
So
it's swirling in there and kind of almost like beckoning him.
It is.
Whether it's his own curiosity or something more sinister.
Yeah, I'm inclined to think the latter, actually.
Yeah. Or a healthy mix of both.
Yeah. Yeah. So Pip is like, snatch. Gets it. And obviously, he's holding it. He's looking into it. He sees like a dark flying figure and an evil figure approach him. Mm-hmm. And he's scared, of course. He drops it and yells in fear. Mm-hmm. And Gandalf is like, you stupid boy.
Right. Taking things out of my arms while I'm asleep.
Yeah.
You really think that was a great idea?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when we learn that the ball or the orb or whatever is a palantir. Is that how you say it?
Palantir?
Palantir, which is one of the 7 seeing stones. And I think they kind of just used to be used for communication. Mm-hmm. But, of course, they were turned evil by Sauron. And that's what he uses to communicate with his minions and probably spy throughout the land from Mordor.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
Not something you want to just leave lying about.
It is not.
And using it just...
willy-nilly.
Right.
Yeah. So the Palantir allowed Pip to see visions, but also Sauron to see Pip and his thoughts.
But he didn't get the answers to anything fully.
Right.
So
Gandalf thinks because he didn't get any true answers that this is going to confuse Sauron and that they can like use this to their advantage.
Right. Because he probably thinks Pip has
the ring.
What he wants.
Exactly. So now he is... And I'm wondering if not only does the stone let them communicate, but gives him a sense of where he is, or like how far from him the person using this seeing stone is.
Yeah, you would think that he would be able to tell essentially where they're broadcasting from. But
right. Because Gandalf...
Maybe it just gives kind of a general. But
yeah, because Gandalf thinks that it's going to confuse Sauron and make him, like, focus his attention kind of away from where Frodo is. Mm-hmm. So that makes me think that he kind of has a rough idea of where it is.
Right. But also, that means that him and Pip have to go and be separate from the rest of the group.
Exactly. And so he takes Pip and they ride off on Shadowfax. And it says that they're riding towards Edoras, which is the Palace of Rohan.
Yeah.
So, and that is book 3.
That's it. Leaves you on a little cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Sort of.
It does. And you'll have to go to part 2 to listen to our final thoughts, obviously. Mm-hmm. But what I find really interesting about book 3 is that we hear not a peep about Frodo and Sam.
It honestly, like, it didn't even dawn on me because I was so immersed in the events of the story. Like, I think I got halfway through and I was like, holy smokes, we have not switched perspectives to Sam or Frodo yet. So we have no idea what's going on with them.
Right.
Whatsoever.
Exactly.
Which, like, I can't tell if I prefer it, but I think I liked it because then, it's not like you're waiting to get back to the other group. It's like you get to see fully what's going on with this group, and then you get to see what's fully going on with that group. So I think both ways of storytelling, whether it's mixed back and forth or separate, is fine. Mm-hmm. But I did like this.
I agree. I think it's an interesting way to write this book because it's almost like a very literal way of doing like the high fantasy where the group starts together and then you have a breaking of the group and they're scattered and then you have them come back together at the end.
Right.
So it's a really like obvious way to do that. Mm-hmm. So you have the whole first part with this group and the whole second part.
Right.
Presumably.
Well, when you have so much going on, it kind of makes sense to keep those stories separate and contained.
Right, exactly.
Within themselves,
yeah.
So you can focus more.
Exactly. And if you hadn't like watched the movies and you don't know how the story ends, you're kind of with Aragorn and company at the beginning wondering like what has happened to Frodo and Sam. Mm-hmm. So it almost like heightens the tension going through the first part of the book because you don't know and neither do they.
And not to say that I guess not forget about them, but you have a good, interesting story that has you entrenched in what they're going through. Mm-hmm. You're not necessarily sitting there the whole time going, what about Frodo? Like, you know,
that's true.
He's brought up, but I mean, this story is good enough that I could see where it would almost have. In a movie it works, but maybe in the book he just felt like it'd be too distracting or too complicated to go back and forth and back and forth. Yeah. So I like that he split it the way that he did.
I agree. I am interested to think about if they would have made the movie this way.
Yeah.
Like how that would go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know that it would work as well in a film.
I agree.
To neglect characters for that long. But in the book it didn't bother me. But I feel like, in a film it would be strange. Because then you're essentially... Because at least this is split up into books. Mm-hmm. So, like, this is book 3. Whereas, like, a film, it's like... This is film 2.
The whole film.
For to have like the first half be one story and the second half be another, I guess it could have worked, but I think that they kind of built the tensions of both stories kind of at the same time, so they were kind of following that same, beginning, heightened middle crisis, and kind of like come back down for the end. Kind of thing, like as you do in a film, like they kind of did that with both storylines at the same time rather than, the first half of the movie. You go up and down and have a conclusion, and then you go up and down and not a conclusion, but a cliffhanger, and then up and down to another cliffhanger. At least this way they both go up and down. And together. The movie has kind of a good, like, going forward moment, whereas actually both of the stories leave us,
Hanging.
book 3 and 4 leave us kind of on on cliffhangers.
Yeah.
Of like, what are we going to do next?
Yeah.
Or what about this? So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
Very enjoyable. Good read.
Yep.
So no final thoughts here.
Right.
Go to part 2.
But you're still welcome to rate and review us.
You are indeed still welcome to. Send along your book recommendations. What are you reading this year? What are you excited to read this year?
If you did set goals for yourself, what is your goal?
Yeah.
Is it reasonable? Or are you one of those people that can read 200 books in a year?
Yeah.
Teach
Good
me your ways,
Lord.
I guess.
Any books you would like us to talk about?
Yeah.
Totally open. Not even sure what our next book's going to be yet.
We haven't settled on that one yet.
So, surprise.
Yep, it will be.
Our tunes and artwork are a collaboration of the two of us.
Yep.
Putting our noggins together.
Indeed.
So,
yep. But until next time, which could be, moments from
away.
now. Or a while, depending on how you spread out your episodes.
True.
Keep your forked tongue behind your teeth.
Aha.
And read books.
That's right.
Goodbye.
Oh, bye.
Or see you in a minute.